Hey everyone, I'm Heinz and welcome to my channel. And in today's video, we'll be doing an account breakdown for my RoboForex Procent MT4 account. What this means is we'll be looking at the performance of 4 different expert advisors, taking a closer look at the settings that I'm using and the overall performance of the account. But before moving forward, if you find any part of the video helpful, I'm going to ask you to drop it a like. Also subscribe to stay updated with future videos. So firstly, we are going to head to the MyFXBook for the account and take a look at the performance overall. So if we head over to the MyFXBook for the Dark Venus and more account, you'll see that the time-weighted gain or gain is currently at 4.96 with an absolute gain of 7.41, or in other words, a total net profit of over $3,700. Then when you select the General tab, you'll see the different EAs that are currently running on this account. Firstly, we have Dark Venus number 1900, Stratos Bora 567650, and also W Drive or Warp Drive Forex EA. Now, I will keep this information updated so that you can at any time visit the account and see how the different expert advisors are performing. Now, if we select the Magic Custom Analysis and we select those free magic numbers, you'll notice the performance of each of the free EAs. And currently in first place, if we're looking at the time-weighted gain, is none other than Dark Venus EA, or magic number 1900. Now, Dark Venus has been running on this account since the start of January 2025, and we're going to explore the settings that I've been using on the AUD CAD. Currently, the set file is up over 3.9%, or in other words, a profit of $1,157.45. Now, I prefer trading the AUD CAD because it is a pair that is known to be range bound. And this is ideal if you're using cost averaging or martingale style EAs. Now I know that many of you will be asking what are the exact settings that I'm using on this account, so in the next section we'll explore a backtest over the same period and see exactly how this EA is getting these results. So if we head over to my MetaTrader 5, and for all of the tests I'll be using the last year, I'll be testing against the AUD CAD on the 15-minute time frame, and for these examples I'll be using a deposit of $1,000. Now if we head over and take a look at the graph that was generated in the backtest, we can see that there's a lot of similarity between what we have on MyFXBook and what we have live in the market. Now, this shows us that the settings have been doing exceptionally well, getting in and out of trades using a scalping strategy that I previously covered on the channel. And overall, it's up a profit of over $1,157.45. So let's explore those settings. Now, this set file is based on one that I previously featured on the channel called 9000, but with a few updates, it's now called 1900. Now, very importantly, you always have to adjust your maximum spread filter according to your broker, and for this example, you will use 35. Then if we look at our money management options, I'm using money management set as true, meaning it will auto-calculate the lot sizing according to a risk percent of 1. So on the $300 cent account, it is using a 0.30. Then if we look at our strategy that the expert advisor is using, it's using the third option for Dark Venus, which is the uptrend buy and downtrend sell, with a Bollinger Band period of 50 and a standard deviation of 3. Now on top of the entry criteria, we also have our trading hours, which are set according to broker server time, which is GMT plus 3. And for this strategy, it is trading from 2 in the morning until 10 at night, but only trading on specific trading days, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, meaning I have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday set to false. Now, when it comes to trading directions, the EA has the option of taking both buys and sells at the same times, However, I have limited that to only trade in one direction at a time. On top of this, I've changed the maximum amount of buy and sell orders so that this is limited to only 10, meaning it can only place 10 trades at a maximum quantity in one direction. Now, when we look at the grid, I have most of the settings enabled except for the indicator conditions. Now, the reason behind this is because the EA is allowed to trade a lot of hours and a lot of days. Now, for the grid management, I use lot sums and a grid coefficient of 0.3 with a 300 distance between them and a distance multiplier of 1.2. Now, the gain loss target settings are exactly the same as on the account, and the first take target order has 120 or 12 pips, and then 80 or 8 pips once it hits into its grid. On top of that, I've also set a monetary stop loss where it takes the amount and multiplies by the lot size to have a grid stop loss. Now, if we scroll down, I've also enabled the average trailing stop on the account, but it's important that you adjust these values according to your broker and always have the only in profit set to true. Now, for those of you who joined me for my last Dark Venus set file, this one does not close the trades on Friday, so all of the closed trade settings are set to false. So now that we've looked at these settings, these are the settings that you can take a screenshot and use if you want to trade the AUD CAD. And what we've seen from MyFXBook and these testing results, it's able to generate a nice total net profit with a relatively low equity drawdown, giving us a profit factor of 2.86. Then our next expert advisor on the account, which is currently in second place according to the time-weighted return, is Warp Drive Forex AI EA. Now, this is another free expert advisor, and I'm using the free version on the account and not the pro, and it's still able to generate a nice return. Now, for this expert advisor, I'm also manually managing the trades. So you'll notice that our trade quantity is a lot lower than what we'll see in our next examples. On top of this, it still shows a good win rate of 76% with a higher average win compared to its average loss, giving it a very impressive profit factor of 4.47. However, if you let the EA trade without any manual intervention, you'll see that it would have gone into major drawdown. Now, what I do for this expert advisor is I manually close some of the trades before news events. This can have that we have some small losses, but we are then able to avoid these major episodes of drawdown. So if we look at the graph, you'll see that it went into drawdown and then started a user cost averaging or martingale style to get out of the trade. Thankfully for me, because I closed that trade before the news event, I was able to avoid that entire drawdown. Now, for those of you wondering the settings that I'm using, the EA doesn't offer any customization, so I'm using the default settings on the free version. Now, overall, the Warp Drive or W Drive Forex AI EA uses buy limit and sell limit orders during a specific period at the end of the New York session. So if we look at the backtest results, you'll see most of the entries are between 22 and 2300 hours, where it places buy limits and sell limits to enter in the market. Now, as always, with any free expert advisor, it's important that you are cautious about these trades that might go against you. So it is important that you manually manage your trades, and often before news events, I will close a small loss and rather than go into major drawdown. So as we compare that to before, you'll see there are quite a few more trades in the backtest, and that is because of the reason that I closed some off manually. Now, looking at these results though, W Drive Forex AI EA does show some promise, and I will continue running the expert advisor on the account, even though it had some problems. Now, for those of you who are interested in learning more about this expert advisor, I'll leave a link to a video down in the description. Now then we move on to our last expert advisor on the account, which is Stratos Bora EA. And we'll see here that even though it made the highest amount of profit out of all of the expert advisors with over $2,000, it does have a negative time-weighted return or gain because I had to make an additional deposit into the account when it went into major drawdown. Now, these types of drawdown events can happen to any expert advisor, Stratos Bora, Dark Venus, or even Warp Drive Forex EA. And it's important that you, as the trader, have a plan and purpose in place for when these types of events will happen. So now that we've seen what happened with the graph and why it caused this major drawdown, let's take a look at what actually happened on the account. And if we ran the settings that I used against the strategy tester, it actually ended in a very big loss, losing over $940. That is why it's important that you have a plan B in place for your recovery when an expert advisor goes into drawdown. Now, if we head back to my virtual private server, you will see the start on the 9th and 10th of April when it took a sell trade that started going against it. And we'll see that the Kijun Sun crossed the Tikan Sun, which is the signal alert on strategy number 3. And then as the market went against us, it continued placing trades until it reached its maximum quantity of 10 trades. It is important that you have a limit to the amount of trades that a grid can place, so that if it goes against you, you have the possibility of recovering that account. Now, if you don't have a maximum trade quantity, the EA will continue placing trades in the same direction until eventually the market recovers or it blows the account. Now, if we take a look at an example of an expert advisor that didn't have this function, and these are trades at the beginning of March placed by Node Neural EA, that Node Neural EA continued placing sell orders, and because the EA doesn't allow you to set the maximum amount, it continued doing so until we had over 14 trades. At this point, I implemented EA Black Dragon, and it was able to recover out of this massive drawdown and save the account. Now, I often get asked, how do you attach an expert advisor to a grid that's already failing? So next we'll see how to do exactly that. Now, if we head back to the Procent MT4 account or the MT4 RoboForex account, you'll see at that point is the first trade that was placed by EA Black Dragon. And the way to implement this strategy is as follows. Firstly, I opened an additional chart for the Euro USD, for which I will be attaching EA Black Dragon. So once it reached that point where it had too many trades and I thought that it wouldn't be able to recover this grid, I opened a separate Euro USD chart in the 15-minute time frame and attached EA Black Dragon to the chart. So then after attaching EA Black Dragon to the additional chart, you still have to make a couple of changes for it to recover the grid. Firstly, I had to change the magic number to the same magic number as what we had for Stratos Bora. On top of this, I enabled it to manage manual orders. This way it will take over the orders from EA Black Dragon and start using its overlap technique to close these orders. Now, the way that the overlap technique works is it looks for small pullbacks in the market to close the first and the last trade once it reaches its specific amount. For this example, you'll see that we have it set to 7 and 4, meaning once trade number 8 is placed, and if the market makes a small pullback, it will look for the overlap percent profit and then close that trade. What this does is it effectively shifts or moves the grid in a specific direction, bringing your take profit target closer to where market price currently trades at. So doing this, it will then take order number 8 and order number 1 and then start cross-closing these trades. So it's important that you have a maximum quantity of trade set for any grid. And in this example, it took a small pullback and you'll see a profit of $3.98. It then continues to do this process until it finally closes the entire grid. Now, one word of warning when it comes to the overlap technique, it can use very high lot sizing, So it's important that you take that into consideration. Now, as it continues closing the prices, it does move its take profit closer to market price, and in that way was able to recover out of the drawdown. And with all of that said, guys, I want to say thank you for watching. I hope that you found this video helpful. Until next time, happy trading. Bye.